Good afternoon. Welcome to Information Architecture. Today is Friday. Another week just went by, and I'm positive you're getting into the rhythm. And I do know that you have a lot of assignments with me and with the other teachers that will make you superstar UX, user-centered design expert, and information architect and usability expert as well. So it's all positive. I know it may feel overwhelming at times, but you will definitely benefit from everything that you're learning in class. So we are for here to talk about information architecture today. We are in week 4, and our topic today will be about doing the I diagramming. So the diagram, the actual I information architecture diagram. So you've been waiting for a month to finally design it and have an opportunity to illustrate the information architecture for some of our projects. So as I said earlier, when we begin the class, there are a lot of questions we need to ask ourselves before we actually start drawing boxes and connect the boxes together. So, and this is what we all have been going through for the last few weeks in terms of understanding the business. So we've done the labs, we've done the lab with Nightwood, and then understanding the business, understanding the users, and then practicing the cart sorting methodology and getting into people's head and getting inside. So I hope you enjoy doing the cart sorting labs, and I have provided feedback. And then I will tell you, it's really consistent with what I see with the other class. I teach this class twice in this semester. And what I see across is very similar in terms of even challenges that we encounter. So I did share some notes. Make sure that you really go through the feedback that I provide. Why do we do the labs is for me to have an opportunity to give you feedback so that you do better when you come to the assignment. So there is an assignment that is due for Monday, which I hope you do know by now, and it's the cart sorting assignment. And then that cart sorting assignment itself, I believe, is worth 15%. And make sure you follow the instructions as well. So I find that a lot of the students will lose marks from not following the instructions. The material is good, the content and whatever solutions are provided are good, but what I find is sometimes it's missing. We miss some pieces from the assignments. So make sure that you do go through the instructions and the assignment, and then make sure that it's also easy for me to actually follow what you've done, the work that you've done, and then that it flows naturally. When I have to do a lot of back and forth, I will say that makes it more difficult, and this is where I start losing the focus on what it is that you have done and what you've tried to communicate to me. And this is where also students will lose marks. So make sure that it's actually readable, and think of me as a client who would actually know little about when it comes to information architecture, and then convince me that that the solution that you're suggesting is the best solution. So that's really the intent. So I did share a lot of feedback about the lab, and and let me just review a bit of them with you. So make sure that you read the instructions as I said. And there is one of the asks from the assignment that you're submitting for Monday is I want you to share with me what the experience was. I want you to share with me the rationale for your cards and choices. So thank you for adding the names of the businesses that I would assume that most of you have decided to do the assignment on. You could have done the zoo, or you could have chosen the project. So we have Lululemon, we have IKEA, we have Apple, Best Buy, Shoppers Drug Mart, Nintendo, Indigo, Well.ca, all very good brands. So I expect that you, at this point, you came up with 50 cards, that you've made a choice of those 50 cards. And those cards should really be covering business goals. So selling drug marks, selling products, selling pharmaceutical product. Maybe they want people to sign up for the loyalty program. Maybe they want people to be able to find the information when they need to contact the customer service. So think through the customer stages, very important. And then out of that, you will get cards. And I think it will be easy to get 50 cards for all of your projects. So very important. And we spoke in great lengths about cart sorting last week. And why I'm spending a bit of time here, it's because I'm seeing, despite the classes and despite the instructions, I still see gaps in the assignments that are being submitted from other classes too, which they're doing the same assignment as you. Uh, it's the cards. On the cards, make sure that there's no redundant cards, right? Just have one card that really talk about purchases. Just have one card related to returns or FAQs. There's no point to have two cards that are really the same, and make sure that you are clear about the cards. Otherwise, your participant will be very confused. So that would be my advice. The other, on the card, you should really just have pages, potential cards for pages that will be on your site or area. Think of an area of your site like accounts, my account. So there will be a page, there will be something for my accounts. The same thing, there'll be something for buying, purchasing, right? Buying products or buying products. And then, but don't put cards that really talks about things like edit my profile, right? Or delete my profile. Those are actions. So you just really need to have one card that really relates to your accounts or your profile, for example. And then you don't need to have cards that really are information related. What do I mean by this? Maybe you have product information. So you're going to have product for Shopper Drug Mart, and you're going to have a card that says products or products. You don't need to have something that will say pricing or something that will say product description or a card that will talk about an action that I could do that on the product page that is not a page. I could have a review cards if it's taking me to a place where I actually have reviews. But if the reviews are on your product page, you just need to have really a product page. So don't go back and don't undo if you've, by any chance, if you've added some of the cards that are more action-based. But be aware that I'm seeing that in other assignments. And what happens is you're not getting as much insights to other pages or other areas of your site that you should be focusing when you're adding too much details and too many elements that will end up on the page as well. So that was my advice. What is the other piece of feedback? So listing the user goals and the business goals on Miro or on your board will remind you to make sure that you don't forget to have cards that really speak about the user, the business goals, and the user goals. So, and in fact, it's actually easier for me to see, and from the beginning, the business goals and the user goals and profiles, and then your choice of cards, almost in the sequence that you've actually done your assignment, right? And I will tell you, students are doing that very well. And that is so much easier for me to read and go through the assignment. Now, some of you will say, and maybe you've seen this in your cart sorting if you've already done it, sometimes you will have participants that will say, I wish I had more contacts. Do we have anybody who has done the cart sorting for the assignment? And maybe that's also from the lab. I think I've seen it. I've definitely seen it with other classes too. Do we have anybody who has participants that felt that they needed more context to be able to do a better cart sorting? More context about some cards and what some of the cards may actually mean. No? So keep in mind, the users, those participants, when they do the card sorting, they're not going to have more context or more information than the cards and those labels on the site, right, or on the product. People don't get context when they actually come to visit to your site to be able to navigate and be able to do what they want to do. So there is no such thing as providing context. What we're providing them is what they will see, and then it's real life, right? So this is why it's really important that your cards, at least you understand, the labels are meaningful, and as close as possible to what they will be on the website. A sentence on the label is not what you will see on the website. And I've seen cards with sentences. I have seen cards in the other assignment with parentheses that has an instruction that says this card will be about this. Think of the card as the label that the participant and the user will see on their site, right? So there will be no instructions, there'll be no parentheses, there'll be nothing. So very important. So Michael, yes, our group was debating if it was okay to go on the website to get context, but decided not to as it was against the point. So for the for the lab, now for the I would assume you're speaking about the lab, Michael, because everybody was doing the lab, you were doing it yourself. And then, but for the card sorting assignment for Monday, you were to do it with people that are outside of our class, right? So yes, it's better not to go to the site, and so that really they're really dealing with the cards with their best, their ability, what they know today, when they actually could potentially be visiting that website in the future. But yes, it's better to not go to the site and be biased. And as I said, it's also better not to speak in terms of a website, because what happens, participants start thinking that the cards must also be positioned, placed where they actually will visualize them online. And you see that, we've seen that, right? And I think it's hard to not think of terms of placement. For those main categories, we assume they're going to be probably on the main navigation, and we assume that some of them will be on the footer, and maybe you have participant that spoke in terms of placement. But if it helps them, good. But you don't care about placement when you do your when cart sorting. Placement will come with navigation. Okay. So invent with diagram, and we're going to talk about diagramming today. Don't worry about navigation. Don't even talk about navigation on your diagram. Don't talk about footer navigation. And on that point, all cards need, even if you say this card will be on the footer navigation, the page has to live inside the tree. So you cannot have a card by itself. All cards needs to be connected to a level one, right? So because they have to have a home on the web. So even if they are positioned or accessible from the footer navigation, when you click on the page, the page has to live within the tree, within the information architecture. So very important. Uh, but yes, so the woman card caused a bit of problem. You can do, it makes sense. Well, obviously, when you are going to do card sorting and you'll be facilitating card sorting with participant, if you're not the participant, you will need to go to the website, right? To understand the context of the website. So you as uh, facilitating, preparing, and facilitating and conducting a card sorting activity, you obviously need to go to the website so that you can get answers to what is woman, right? What is the intent with that card woman? And some of you did very good. You actually went, you search on Google, and you saw what the Nightwood Theater, how they position their opening statement and their description on Google about woman. It's a theater made by woman, and then that's maybe all of what we need on that specific card, right? Made by woman. So, and that would speak more than the woman label by itself as well. So, but you as a facilitator, you obviously need to know about the site. You need to be informed, and you need to make sure that the cards are actually making sense to you as well before you do the card. So I'm spending a bit of time here, but it will help you with hopefully with the assignment that is due for Monday. The card sorting and the final card sorting that you will decide as a team after you've all done is the basis for the diagram. And if it's not well done, it doesn't matter how good your diagram is. If the groupings are not very well done, and if you haven't done properly what you need to do to make sure that you're getting the best insight, the best looking information architecture is not going to help poor quality in the card sorting. So it's a very important step in the project. And I'm just reading some of the comments. Some cards has unclear nomenclature. We renamed 2 cards as we change our employment card to career. Yes, absolutely. And you've done, Tanisha, you've done exactly what you should do. Now, when you do this, before you go to your card sorting, you can also look at other side and see how they call these things, right? Career, you will see career all the time. Careers, employment cards or careers. Feel free to use other sites for inspiration, and also feel free to use the Google Trends tool that I give you, right? You could search and say careers, and then you could say, give me search volumes on employments, and you can see who's searching more on careers and employment. Let's just do that. I'm going to do it for you, with you as well. I'm going to share my screen. Let's do that. So I'm going to show you a practical way that you can use the Google Trends. I'm going to share. So careers or employment. So let's see what we learned from Google Trends tool. If you haven't used that tool, it's a great tool. It's free by Google, and you can explore terms. And what I do is I go to the left navigation and I go explore, and then I say careers as a search terms. You will see search terms, and then you will say employment as a search term. Worldwide, you could say Canada, so you could limit your search to Canada if you wanted as well. And in the past 12 months, okay, so careers, employment, you see how valuable Google Trends is. So what does this mean? It's a better choice to use career than employment. That means we have more people thinking in terms of career versus employment. You don't need to survey. You don't need to survey people to know what term they use more, right? So you can use this tool to help you, guide you, and say this career is probably a better choice. So Tanisha, absolutely. So feel free to use Google Trends. This is provided by Google, and Google knows exactly what people are searching on. This is connected to Google Ad Display when you buy keywords for search, and you get a sense of search volumes as well. So this is a very powerful tool. If you want another more advanced, powerful tool that is also free by Google, you would use Google AdWords. Let me just show you the link. It's free, and you can get a lot more information about search volumes, very, very, very detailed per market, per locations, per interest. What it's very, very, very targeted, and I'm just gonna share with you the link. And it's free. You don't have to buy advertising. So it will give you an opportunity to explore some of the Google tools as a UX, user-centered design. Having data, having analytics is really, really critical. And Google AdWords is another tool that you can use for free, and you will see that there's a lot of good insight that you will get. So let's see what other feedback. Yes, so you're lucky because you're using your own site, right? So you're deciding if, for those of you that are doing Indigo, you've already created your own cards. For other classes, they had no choice to use the zoo, so I gave them cards. But you have the flexibility to pick any cards that you want, but you'll have to give me your rationale. So that's part of the instruction. So make sure that you give me, why did we pick those cards, those 50 cards? Give me a bit of a story so that I understand that you're very clear. You just not decided to go and randomly put some cards, name on cards. You've made some good choices, and go with cards that you feel that are relevant, right? Or people will understand. Now, you're always going to have, sometimes your client will force some specific labels, and that's okay. What happens in the participants, they will tell you that they may not understand this label. They may not know where to put that card, and that will be insight to your client. You'll say, this card, woman, is causing issues. People don't know what woman is. But you may say, we've actually changed a woman card for made by woman, and people had a better idea what made by woman was, and they've actually put that card with about us, as opposed to leaving the woman card by itself and not knowing, right? So this would be a very good insight as well. You don't have to worry about breadth and depth, the number of categories, how many categories. You go with the categories, the number of categories that you will have seen across all of your sessions, right? So if you see that two participants have created 4 or 5 categories, that is it, right? You don't need to create a 4, a 5th, a 6, or a 7 categories. Go with the categories, the number of categories that they've given you. There's no such number. But you will see when we are going to move from eye diagramming to navigation, this is where you will be able to have flexibility on breadth and depth. And I've been saying all along, eye information architecture is not, it will not lock you into a specific number of items on the navigation. The diagram has nothing to do with navigation. So let's not talk navigation when we are doing the eye diagram. And then that would be my best advices. And make sure that you go through the I was showing, thanks for I was going through the tips on week 3 of the lab from last week. So that was what I was sharing with the class, and then I was sharing this feedback. So This is feedback that I have added to the week 3, the lab cart sorting that you've provided, and with the insights, and you all have access. And then also make sure that you go through the instructions for the lab, that you don't miss any parts. Some students, what they will do, they will actually take the lab's instructions and put them in Miro as a checklist for themselves. And because you have selected your own projects, so make sure you give me a brief about Indigo and what is Indigo trying to achieve. So make it up, right? But perhaps they want to do a redesign. They've hired you to do a redesign, and then they've shared with you that they've noticed that consumers are having challenges with buying online, etc. Anything. But make sure that you have clear business objectives. Make sure that you also have clear user profiles or user goals. So I need to know that you have who are the users that you are designing the cart sorting with for, and then who are the users that you're targeting in your research, right? And then this will be connected to DI and navigation as well later on. So make sure you go through the instructions. If there are any things that you're unclear, please share with me. I'll be more than happy, but I do have confidence that you will do well. And then it's due for Monday as well. So we are in week 4. So now I'm going to switch to week 4 and share with you some of the material that you will see. So today we're going to talk about diagramming, and then I have a PowerPoint presentation. If if there is no if we don't have the time to go through the entire deck or PowerPoint today, I have a link to the Async video from a previous semester that you'll be able to view on your own and get more insights from the deck. So I see your questions on the chat. Someone asked me a. Okay, so. So I have a question. Someone has a question about the captioner. I just got an email yesterday from Humber about the requirement that we have captioning or an external link. So I received the email last night late. I had no chance to go through the details and the setup. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to for closed captioning. The only thing that I could do is I could load the PowerPoint, I believe, on the Google Drive, and then be able to use closed captioning from there. But the email came very late for the requirements, so I don't have anything external. Now, what I
Hi,
do though, hi,
hi, it's Asma. I'm just
hey
sorry,
Hasma.
I'm ghosting into your session. Hi everyone. So I'm
Oh,
sorry
hey Hasma. Sorry, I
I
didn't
came
realize it
without
was my
asking.
Hasma.
Yeah, it's your Asma. So I'm going to be teaching you guys after Eve is done. I'm probably not as good as him, so make use of him. But I'm right now here to help the captioner come in, and sorry to barge in like that. Do
No
you
worries. No,
can you
I'm
just
glad you
check your
do.
personal chat? And I just want the captioner to enter, and I can give him the captioner's status, and then I'll be out of here.
Okay, so
Sorry to
someone is
disturb you.
captioning then?
So sorry.
No, no, no. So maybe we can connect after Asma too. Like, yeah, yes, I was unclear on the instruction and
Okay,
what
no
to do. So
problem.
good.
Okay.
So someone is doing the captioning at this point then?
No, they're not. They're waiting for us to give them access into the classroom.
Okay.
If you have like an invitation link that you could give me, I tried to look for it, I couldn't find it. So once they enter the Blackboard, I will
Yeah.
personally turn them into a captioner and then I'll leave.
I'm trying to think, where do I get the invite link?
So you'll
Do you know?
probably get the invite in the Blackboard collaborate area which is used to
Okay.
enter this place.
Okay, hold
Sorry,
on.
Eve. I feel
Sorry,
like
class, but
somebody
no, 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 this is
gate
important. I'm
crashing.
glad that you. Okay, that
Yeah, you just need to give
yes,
me a link to join in.
yes. So I'm here. Join anonymous. Pink and app. No, make a call. Join anonymous. View reports.
I think if you enter edit recurring sessions somewhere there,
Yeah.
yeah, just go back maybe and enter the recurring session and then edit something and you'll get a link. I tried for
Edit
the past
recurring
five
session.
minutes.
Guest access.
Yes, guest access. Awesome. Yep.
Participant, moderator, participant, presenter, moderator. So participant then?
Yes.
Um,
Yes. And you'll have to edit something to allow it to save. Meanwhile, I'll just tell the class how excited I am to come and teach you guys in another 4 weeks or 3 weeks. Um,
yes, it's going fast, and you're gonna have fun with this class. They're
I
awesome.
know. I'm looking forward to teaching all of you. We haven't really met yet, but when I'm here, I'll tell you everything about me and hear everything about you. I'm sure you guys are an amazing cohort.
And they're not shy, so they're very talkative. They're a bit
Oh,
more shy today, but I think they're because they know we're trying to set this up with captioning. Uh, I don't know. Yes, this card changes don't take me back.
you
So
know,
I've
I
been
think we'll try
editing.
to work this out in the next couple of days, and I will apologize to the captioner today and let them know they can come in next week. I think I'm just eating
Yeah,
up too much of
so
your class time.
yeah, and what I do is I do upload the and then I do upload to YouTube and I provide the link and then the captioning are added as well, like a few days after. But
Okay.
that's what I've been doing. But yes, we're gonna need to figure out because I know there are other professor that we're not really 100% sure on what to do either with the
Okay. Okay.
requirement.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you
Thanks.
so much for
Thank you,
letting me
Esma.
gate
Good to see
crash.
you.
Thank you for letting me
Bye.
gate crash your party. See you guys
No,
soon.
no worries. No, this is good. I'm glad you came. So they'll you'll have a chance to meet all of them very
Yes.
soon. It's
Yes.
around the
Thank you,
corner.
Eve. Thank you. I'm
Bye,
sorry
Asma.
again. Bye.
No worries. You will enjoy Asma. She's awesome. Uh, yes, my apologies. So we do have to figure out what the captioning during class. So we were just made aware yesterday in by email very late. So my apology, but it will be taken care of. Okay, so we're gonna go to diagramming in week 4, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm still sharing the screen. Awesome. So I do have some reading for you that I have selected. They're not too long. It seems like maybe there are a lot of readings, but again, the readings are just to advance your knowledge and also hear about information architecture diagramming from another point of view other than me. And then I also have some recommended reading as well and lesson slides and which we will review together. And as I was saying, if we don't have an opportunity to go through all of the material, I do have some links to the async material. So you'll be able to get more insights. I have some diagramming tips that I have also added to this week. Very important, I will say, for your lab and definitely for your main assignment, which will be due next the following Monday. Uh, the eye diagrams, what I see that a lot of students will do, they make them a lot more complex than they should really be. A diagram should be super simple. If you're having a hard time to actually illustrate your diagram, it's because you're trying to introduce complexity when it's not needed. It's simple. It has to be super simple. So we're going to look at some examples today. But some of the tips, let me just go through the list with you now so that you are going to be a bit familiar with. They should be kept very simple. And I will tell you, a very good IA does not need to have a legend. Like there's no need to have a legend. All the boxes can be all the same size, the same color. All we need is I just need to see a tree and I need to see that the boxes are connected. And then you can use indentation as well so that I can see what is the parent and what is below it. And I will share some example with you, but they're kept simple. And there's no links between boxes, no connection between boxes. You don't need to have any of that in the information architecture. So you should ask yourself, can someone look at my information architecture and understand it without having to look at the legend? Um, if the answer is yes, that means no color coding, no different sizes of boxes, all box, all same color, all same sizes. You just have to connect them and show the hierarchy and use indentation as well for your level 3, for example. That will be then you'll be very good with the eye diagram. Um, you don't have navigation as well. Don't talk about navigation on your eye diagram. all boxes need to be connected to another box. So, but there's no navigation, there's no footer navigation, there's no utility navigation. You will see some examples in my PowerPoint that has navigations, and they're bad examples. So no navigation. And a box needs to be a page. So it has to be a content page, or think of it, it will be an area on the site or on the product. If it's a mobile app or if it's a kiosk, it has to be a page. So a box is a page. It's not a piece of information, it's going to be a page. So you're going to click and you're going to get to a page that will have that element that you call that box. So if it's my account, then the box means this is my account page. And if there's something below it that says my preferences, then there will be a page for preferences. Then if it says my contact info, that means there'll be a page with your contact info too. If there's no page, then there's no box. And then you have to exclude. So in a diagram, do not include pop-ups. So you don't show a pop-up. There will be pop-up on the internet, right? But you don't include pop-ups on the information architecture. You don't include features like edit or save or delete or update profile, delete profile, save profile. You don't have these actions because it gets too complex, right? There's going to be a lot of things on the page that we can do. So you don't show those actions on the page. You only show the page. No pieces of information, like I said, no pricing, no star rating. These elements you will capture on another document that will talk about your requirements, that will talk about your features or your list. But you don't talk about these elements on the information architecture. It gets too complex. No boxes between, no links between boxes to show that perhaps I may link profile to my my list. So you don't show links between my profile and my list. There will be links. Of course, we know there will be links throughout the internet. This is why the website, the internet is the internet, right? But on the information architecture, you don't show the hyperlinks, and no external links to external sites. So you don't have a box that will say this will go to an external site. So you don't show your social media boxes or your links to social media on your information architecture. Those are links to external pages. Okay. I'm repeating it, but make sure you go through the tips when you do your IA diagram. And then I have a link to the async video in case that we don't have the time. And this video has closed captioning as well. So it's the same lecture that I gave. So I gave this lecture before, and they already have closed caption in there. You're gonna get more insights about the Nightwood. I think I go through Nightwood in some of the exercises on that class. And my bubble, don't forget the bubble when you do your diagram, right? So another way for you to see if you have all the pieces that are needed in the assignments, go through the bubble. Have I shared with Yves the business goals? Have I shared with Yves the user goals? I have shared with Yves, is my IA or diagram very basic? And then breadth and depth will come with navigation. So don't worry about breadth and depth yet. The labels, are the label understood, clear? And then should I be able to add sections or add a new page on my information architecture if I need it in the future and not have to redo my information architecture every time, right? That's a very important. And I also have reminders about what to include and not to include in the bubble. And we have a lab. So there's a lab for Monday midnight, and the lab this week is diagramming. So it's a very easy lab, and let's see, it's a team. So you have to do this in team, but I will give you hopefully time today to work by yourself on coming up with the IA diagram for Nightwood. But the lab, so make sure that you follow again the instructions from the lab. So the lab is for Nightwood. So you're going to take what you've done for chord sorting for Nightwood, and now you're going to do your IA diagram. So you're going to do the IA diagram. Let me just open the lab instructions. And then I promise we're going to talk about diagramming, but we have started talking about diagramming. So the lab is done in teams, but if you do want to get feedback if you want to do your own information architecture, and if you want to everybody on your team wants to do their own information architecture, put them all in one document or all on one Miro and submit that. That's good too, so that I can see and I can give feedback of what I see. That's acceptable. So you can really do group, or you can do team or individual or group if you want for your lab for this week for the information architecture. But if you want to have a chance to practice by yourself, then I will say do your own information architecture. Uh, and you can, and I will say submit by yourself, or you can submit as a team all in one. I'm flexible, as long as I do get submission. But you're probably going to get more if you actually do your own. But maybe you want to review it with teams and get feedback from your colleagues. And when I see that students do that, they do better. When I see students who submit by themselves, I see that they don't do as good because they lack of getting feedback from peers, right? So use this as an opportunity to get feedback and maybe pair up with someone. So what you have to do is you have to take the chord sorting that you've done and you have to translate it into a diagram. Simple. I will say you probably don't need to spend more than 2 hours on this lab, maybe even less. You can submit your lab in Miro if you want. Make sure I can add comments, so I can put comments in there. And but use the chord sorting that you've done for the lab for Nightwood, and now you will do your diagram, and then done. I'm just going through the instructions. So for each category in your sort, decide if you need to have more subcategories. So you may want to do some subcategories. So this is maybe an opportunity to refine your cart sorting, your final cart sorting before you move into the diagram. You can do that, but try not to change too many things, because then you're going to move away from what you've found with the users. But if you feel that there's something that you could have done better and not based on the feedback that I gave you, then that's an opportunity. So you can make some tweak to your cart sorting so that you have a better IE diagram. That's the message here. But really use what you have done for your cart sorting as your baseline. And then include your level 1, your level 2. You can include level 3 if you have, but don't go beyond level 3. And but make sure that I can clearly see level 1 and level 2 without even a legend. Okay. Use indentation. And then your final output will be IE diagram. And then you don't have to worry about the order of the sections, because the order of the groupings you can change your navigation. Again, there's no connection with navigation, right? The IE diagram is not necessarily what people will see on the navigation. And the order doesn't suggest that the order that you've put your items on the IE will be the order on the navigation, if they are on your navigation. But if you care, you can decide or suggest an order of in which order you think your grouping would be on the IE as well. But you don't have to lock into a specific order. But you can if you want. You may want to say, I'm going to put about Nightwood. Then I'm going to put tickets, buy tickets. Then I'm going to put the third category will be about getting to the Nightwood Theater. Maybe there's going to be the fourth category will be couriers. And you can put that in an order that you think you would probably, or maybe you would recommend for your client, but you're not locking yourself into that same order for your navigation. So that is something that you can do. If you do, though, choose a specific order, then please give me a bit of a rationale as well. And also, if there's anything that you want to share with me that as you're going through the exercise, nothing stops you from sharing any information in a small paragraph of text, so that so that I can understand better your choices that you've made. But the assignment, the lab assignments for IE diagram will require that you give me rationale. So this is a lot for this week, and you'll have a chance to practice what we are discussed today, and that is due for Monday midnight as well. So you will find that on the week. And now we're going to move on to our content. And yes, Marisa, how can I help you? Hi, Marisa, you have a question. So it was a false alarm. I would take Marisa. There's no questions. We can carry on to our best practice for diagramming. If you have a mic issues, you can type in your question here. So let's go into diagramming. Which mood are you in today? So it's been a while that I have done this. We are in week 4. Feel free to use our paintbrush or any of the drawing tools. So I will say I like to see which mood people are. The class is today in this class. I'm on fire. Some of you are probably worried. Yes, I was waiting for that little worry face. Lazy. It's Friday. It's a long week. So some of you have classes almost every day, right? So we have a few people worried. It's the weekend. It's a nice, I hope it's going to be a nice day. Hopefully you'll have a bit of time to yourself and you'll have a bit of time to have some naps if you want. And if you're on fire, then after this class, then perhaps you can go and for a little run or a little bike ride. It's actually pretty stunning outside. So glad to see. But if there's anything I can do to reduce your level of worriness, please let me know. I'll be more than happy. So now is we're going to talk about diagrams. So uh, it's very the information. There's a lot of content, right? So there's this little quote by Edward Tufte. So if it's not how much empty space there is, but rather how it's used. It's not how much information there is, but rather how effectively the information is arranged. So we have a lot of content, and you have a lot of content for Indigo or any of the sites you've selected. Nightwood has a lot of content too. How do we provide access to that little content? Is really the big question. And how do we structure it so that the users are actually uh, finding what they're looking for, and they also what they find, what they see, other things that they see is actually what they would have expected, right? Which you've seen in your cart sorting. So information architecture, the diagrams. You have people that's what they do as a career. They are information architects. So when I started 25 years ago, I feel like we would often more hear about people that are information architects. And they would actually, that's all they would do. They would do the information architecture. And they knew nothing else really about design, but they knew well about users research, doing research so that they can do cart sorting, they can do user interviews, they can do observations, all the methodology that you're learning from Yvonne too. It's a research, right? But you would have information architecture. That's really what they've done as well. So we've talked in week one, I think in week two, about the tree and the tree structure, and then how we are providing content as people navigate it through your sections. This is a good example of what this is: breath or death. If we look at this particular illustration, I'll say that because we only have three, right? It's a death. Yes, there's a lot of click, and then this little guy here is far down, and but the guy is branching. So think of I as a tree and how we organize it. We know that there's a latch and there's other ways of organizing content, but we are interested now in the tree structure and the idea. So there's the home, right? And then we have a few entry points, but you entry points as you click, as you get too closer to the content that hopefully you will find that you're looking for. So you don't have to be worried about navigation. We've already been talking about level zero. Typically level zero will be your home. So it will be your home page. And then often this is the URL, right? And sometimes you're gonna have, it will say home as well in the URL. And you can think of, is this box a URL, a unique URL, as a way for you to know, do I need a box for that? Is that going to be a page on my site? But you're already familiar with levels. So level 0, level 1, level 2. You don't have to show me. In fact, I don't want to see a label for levels. If you have, that's okay. But I should be able to see very easily what your levels are. And then perhaps what it maybe is missing here, I should use a bit of indentation. Maybe these items could be just a little bit to the right so that I can see that they are my level 2, right? And I could use a blue here. So if I use a blue in this little picture instead, and I use indentation, then I don't need to have any labels. And in fact, I would prefer just all one color, right? Or if you're going to use a different color, then give me a bit of a legend so that your customer will understand. The main purpose is to illustrate the main section or options on your website. So really what we want to show is we want to show that we're going to have all of these content, and these content will be grouped in the following manner, with the following groupings and the following labels. And you will use the IA diagram as well to show to your stakeholder to make sure that we've captured everything, right? So it's a visual tool. You'll be able to use it to engage with the stakeholder. This is going to be your first deliverables as well, really. They may not be interested in the cart sorting. The cart sorting is for us is used as a technique. You may actually be sharing the cart sorting in appendix that you've done, what you've done to be able to do your eye diagram, and they would probably going to be very impressed. But your first deliverable to your customer is actually the information architecture. Me, I split into two assignments so that you can really focus on cart sorting and get feedback about the cart sorting methodology into an assignment. Then we have the second assignment, which is the information architecture diagram. But when you are with your client, you're only going to do one deliverable, and it will be your information architecture diagram that you will present to them, and that will be really the first piece that they will see from your work. It's to reconfirm your understanding and get agreement on the core content as well that will be available on your site. And maybe this is going to be an opportunity for them to give you feedback too, and maybe there's things that we've missed as well. Your biggest challenge will be to not talk about navigation. They will look at the IA and they'll think it's a navigation. You can say most likely it may be what they will see on the navigation, but just I would keep the navigation conversation for later on. I would really stick to the content. I would really focus on the labels and the content and where we've put the information in which section and which groupings based on the cart sorting, what you found from the users. But really, I would avoid any other conversation. It's really just to get consensus on the content and the sections that we will have. So obviously, we are talking about a hierarchical diagram. And then you can pick there are multiple ways or tools that you can use to do your diagram. So you can use Visio, you can use Adobe, you can use Miro if you want. There are multiple tools, so I don't care which one you use. Fewer details, right? Sometimes you can use sticky notes to even do your eye if you want, if you like to have physical piece of paper, and focus on content, not the features. So sign in is probably an example of a feature. If you put it, it's okay if you put sign in, but I'm really interested in content, what the content will be. Know your audience, right? I think this is not needed to have much more attention. User empathy and knowing how they think about the hierarchy and the level was really critical, and we've seen it in the cart sorting. So you can think of the micro journeys when you think of designing UI, but I will say this is probably going to be more relevant to when we do wireframings and we do the sketching and the navigation. But in this class, we're not going to go really much further when it comes to sketching than the navigation. But a micro journey will be maybe for buying, right? Buy a product and maybe return items. So I think of micro journey as user goals here. That's probably more relevant. You want to make sure that I can see this item, these options on your IA, or at least there's a place that talks about return and buying or subscriptions or membership. Our bubble, we talk about our bubble. So this is really our bubbles or cart sorting. You use your cart sorting. And if you have a list of features, then you can actually just have a separate list that talks about your feature. And I share with you some examples of features that you will have, and then versus content. But content are really pages. Think of them as pages, what user can actually see. So obviously, I will even say that text and images, videos, headings, buttons, and links. You probably don't want to talk about buttons and links on the IA. So, it's too early to even talk about headings, right? And these items are probably going to be on the page. So I would argue that that's probably even too detailed for the information architecture. But definitely you don't want to have the features, okay? So moving from cart sorting. So we're going to use the cart sorting and then the cards that you had in the final groupings that you agree, and you will put that into a diagram. And then really focus on the content. Make sure that all boxes will be a piece of content that you will find, and give you some few steps as well. So you can use sticky notes, you can use Miro. You will have your cards. So by now we have cards for some of the for your Nightwood that you've done. and then list the user goals and list the user and the business goals to make sure that as a reminder that do I have a card in my IA for donations? Do I have a card for tickets? Do I have a card for anything else that we've said that we should have that is important for the business? And yes, you can put them in order or a priority order if you want, from priority from left to right. But you don't need to lock yourself into a specific priority and order. But if it helps you to already have a discussion with your customer at this point, with your client, it was just going to be easier when we do navigation, right? But it's there's no commitment at this point, and then avoid to have features as well, like login or sign in. You can have them if you want, but they're hard to put on the IA. And I will say most of the time, I think it's a given that you're probably going to have these facility features on your site. So the labels, you should aim to have the best and the best label, but sometimes it helps to with your customer to get approval and pass and move on from the IA to navigation by telling them that we're still going to be able to change labels. However, we'd like to have the labels in the IA to be as close as possible to the final labels that we want, because we've used the users, right? We were inspired by the user and what they gave us for the name of the category. Um, but you can tell them that there might be opportunities, but you would probably try to not have to change the labels because you've used the research at this point. So you would want to make sure, you would want to recommend what you think the best label is. But if you see that your client is actually resistant and they want to do they want to have more discussions about labels, at least try to agree that the information architecture and the groupings and the content that you have is what is expected. And then hopefully they'll forget about wanting to change a label, because I would like to think that the labels that you've suggested are the best. We said look at your competition when you think when you're trying to design your IA as well for inspiration, maybe for some labels. You're probably gonna have 1, 2, 3 draft of information architecture. And then this is an opportunity to get feedback with your client. And you do want to go with what you think is the best information architecture. At some point, it'll be final, right? So at some point, it will be final, and you're going to use the information architecture for everything else that would follow. And that will be your navigation, your wireframing. And then you obviously want to run it by your stakeholder. Uh, and you definitely don't need to commit to navigation when it comes to IA, but you want to feel that at some point there is a sign up and this is the IA. But you may need to make some changes to the IA as you progress through the project, as you may get more information, but rarely will you have to go back and redesign it entirely. So that will be the process or the step that you would expect. So I gave you with a little bit more, but by now, for your IA diagram, you have already gathered all your content because you've done your card sorting, right? You already know you have all your cards. You have your final card sorting. You've already categorized them and grouped them similar. The labels are done. So we're at the stage of documenting in a shareable format, really, and there's going to be revisions. So this is a I will say using sticky notes. So someone was using sticky notes to do their IA. So they were using the cards that they had from the card sorting. You can use Marrow as well, and then this was my card sorting for Nightwood when I first taught this class. Then I did my own card sorting, and then I've used this for my IA. As well. And these are some of the card sorting from other classes from other semester that I taught. So this you could just use to compare. But these are the card sorting, right? This is not IA. But I wanted to, I said that you would like to see what other students have came up with card sorting, but don't go and change what you have. But this is not IA. But really, it's a matter of adding a few boxes and connectors, and it's starting to look like an information architecture. So I've shared with you a lot of other students use the Excels instead of using Marrow for their groupings. So I was sharing some of that in here. So we're just going to skip these. And then the tools, we've already talked about the tools. So I've mentioned about Adobe, I've mentioned about Visio, but there are these other tools that perhaps some of you are using. This is really, I will say, this is the most simplistic IA, but really at the end of the day, but again, there's no features, so perhaps we shouldn't be talking about features. It's more content. So about us, contact us, support, blog. I can clearly understand the hierarchy, right? It's consistent. I can see, that these are all, I would say, level 2, and these are all level 1. I don't need to have a color coding. Now I would say, well, why do they have these as a different? Perhaps maybe it's the level 2, but all of these should be a page, right? So these are pages. These will be pages that you will find, and the URL will say blog, right? And when I click on blog, it will probably gonna say Indigo. If it's Indigo, then it will say blog. So think of this, right? These will be pages, individual pages, and you'll have a breadcrumbs too, right? And you should never have, the IA should not have anything by itself, like here, like what we're seeing on this particular page as well. So this is a very simplistic. These are other example of IAs that I'm sharing with you that people have done from the cart sorting. Okay, so let's review this IA. Maybe we can have we can share and discuss it as a class. Any issues? Do we see any issue with this particular IA on screen? By just looking at what you see. So do we have any, can we clearly understand the hierarchy? Does this look like an IA to be? Does it look like an information architecture? Yes. So I would say that I would probably not include, but I'm not going to penalize you if you include login or sign up. You're right, there are features. And then what is confusing about this is this, I don't understand. What is that relationship, right? So this would probably be a good example of where I don't know. I'm not really clear on what is this? What is happening here? I would avoid to use login and sign up. But if you were to include logging and sign up, this is probably how you would include them, because they are separate areas of your site, right? They are considered as separate. But I don't understand the relationship with app. This is your web, so this should be your website. I don't know why they have an app, and then this is almost suggesting it's like a link, right, to an external. This looks like external. It's app. It's external. So you wouldn't this. What else do we think is missing, maybe, for if we were to really be critical and wanting to mark this particular eye? What would be the other critique? What's missing? There's something missing on the eye that they haven't added. The connectors, I don't see them. If they are there, I don't know. I don't think they are. So they don't have the connectors, right? With these boxes. So they're not connected. So, and I would probably use indentation a little bit, so just so that I can see that these are level 2, and then I would use arrow. This is what I would do. You don't need an annotation too. So no annotation. There should be no annotation. I should be able to read the IA and not have to read instructions, or these are this. I should not have this. By now, I should have answers. If I have a section called tours, then that means there will be a section for tour, right? And you're probably going to have just a bunch of tours below it, individual pages for tours, like a tour listing. And I will say that's it. You don't need anything else on the side. But if they wanted to do something very better, then I would just have my boxes a little bit indented, and then I would show that these are connected as well. That's how I would do it. Or at least, at a minimum, add a connector to those boxes. They are missing those connectors. And but you see, everything is in blue. There's no need for color coding. They're all going to be pages, and then each of these are a section, right? Customer, pricing, enterprise, login, sign up. You have this. I would say these will be the critique, but I can get the levels at a glance with this eye. Now, this was just other tools, so you can copy paste from your Excel into Miro, and you can move boxes and create connectors as well. There is no one single standard in terms of IAs. This Jesse, James, Garrett, try to have some standardized, some flow diagrams. There's a link for it for you to review. There isn't like necessarily a standard, but it has to look like a tree, right? So you would want this. Okay, so is there one that we prefer? Is there one? So consider that we are looking at almost like two RAs. Is there something that you think is easier to see the hierarchy? On the left, right? This is hard to see what is the hierarchy. And I've seen IAs like this. So it's a little bit harder to understand the hierarchy here. And it's also inconsistent, right? There's a lot of inconsistency with that particular diagram. So that I would not do. But this, I can see that this is probably level 1. This is probably all level 2. But my preference is to, and then you would probably have some level 3 here. If you had some level 3, then you would have your connector. That's how you would do it. I can get a better sense of what the hierarchy is on the left than on the right-hand side as well. What else? So this you have seen, best practices. Okay, so we've already talked about leaving out features, navigation, maintain consistency. Very important, be consistent. So if you're gonna have if you all need to have connectors, make sure that all your connectors are on the same side too. Sometime I will see that you'll have a connector here, and then sometime I will see that then you have another box, and sometime I will see the other connector coming here. Like I see it all. So then I go, why? Like I don't understand. So be consistent. What else? Avoid saturated color. So no need to use multiple color. I say just use one color. Minimal palette. But you do want to see the connectors, so I need to see the connectors. It says to include a legend always, but me, I challenge that if you are keeping it very simple, there's no need to have a legend. Don't cross lines, so there's no connection between boxes. So you're not going to have connectors between boxes, never. And breadth and depth, I will say this will come later as well. So because you're not locking yourself into navigation. This is the most simplest way of representing your information architect diagram. What the critique that I would do here is I'm not really saying the connectors. So my preference will be to have connectors, but we can assume that these are probably L2, but if you have a L3, where are you going to show it, right? Then by preference, that will be that you would show them like this if you had, but you may have to insert some in here as well. But this is very simplistic, and you don't really need more than this. And I will be happy with something that has this, but with your connector. Okay, what's the issue with this particular information architecture? Anybody has an opinion? What could we do different with this IA? Does it look like a tree? Do we understand what the top categories are potentially? Yes, it is there. I will say there is some hierarchy, but it's not 100% sure. We're not 100% necessarily sure, but it looks like a tree. There's a home, there's the button at the top. So we have a bit of a home button here um, at the top. Sorry, my paint is doing a bit of funny thing here. So we have the top home, and it looks a little bit like a tree. So we have then these items, and then we have things below, but it's a bit messy here, right? Like we don't know why this is going to the left, and then they're using left as opposed to right, which I would think that we're usually more used to. Yeah, the levels are not necessarily clear. So we think that maybe I think the levels to level 1 is maybe a little bit easier to detect. Like that, the level 1, I think is probably here, but this is probably level 2, but we're not 100% sure. And we definitely don't know what these are. What are these? And where are they connected? You see how it's really hard. It's really hard for us to know what belongs to which box and what belongs to which grouping. So this is the critique. I'm having a hard time. And then do you see now? These guys are to the right. These guys are to the left, right? To the left, so they're not consistent. So not consistent. And I don't know why they use different color. There's no need to use color. It should all be gray. I would make everything to the right. So I think this is probably a better representation. I would say my preference is to the right. So I prefer this indentation. All same color. Now we don't know why we have these little dotted boxes. So when I look at this I would need a legend to understand it. But what I would say is instead of a legend, do a better job. Get to the point that I don't need a legend to be able to see the structure. So a legend, I think, is a sign that there's something not correct with what they've done in their eye. And I think we've looked at many examples. Okay, so this particular eye, at a glance, if you compare this eye, and if now look at compare, when you look at this eye, do we have a clear sense that this is a tree? Does it look like a tree? Yes, absolutely, Michael. It looks like a tree. Do we have a sense of levels? Do we have a sense of maybe perhaps level 1, level 2? Do we have a better sense of hierarchy? I say yes. I think this is probably one of the best. This is a very, very good example. I give 5-star. If you give me an eye that looks like this, you're going to get a perfect mark. It's very consistent, right? It's all indented. They have all the connectors. It's all to the left, L1, L2. They don't have L3, and that's okay. This is the simplest. Yes, Michael says if I had a level 3, this is where sometimes it can get complex. But if I had a level 3, Michael, I would actually, I would have a box here, and this is how I would do. I would indent. So be consistent on how you use your indentation. And this is how I would do it. But now I may have, you will say, well, Yves, if I have to add a level 3 in here, right, to daily bread, then just push everything down. But use this to daily bread. That's how I would do it. It's okay. It will be perfectly fine. But I will tell you, this is very consistent. And this person will get a very good mark if they were to give me an eye that looks like this. Yeah, so you can do your L3, but then you just have to be consistent indentation, connectors, and just move down the other boxes if that would be the case. This is a book that the previous teacher has shared that you may want to, I don't know if it's available online or not. When everything is emphasized, nothing is emphasized. So this is why I say keep it very, very simple. This is the same. This is just to show you when there's too much information, we actually end up not seeing any of it, right? So the same ear, this is an ear, and there's so much information on the left that we actually not really get to any of the information that is critical. If instead we really focus on the important pieces, we're getting a lot more information, right? And a lot more value from the diagram. Less is more or less is better. There's the data ink. So there's this deck goes in a lot of detail about the data ink ratio. So I'm not going to go through, and there's a little bit of audio if you want, but I really want us to have time to actually work on some of your diagrams. This is probably an example of a not so good this is definitely not a good architecture because I'm having a hard time to read, understand, and it's crossing lines too. So it's really hard to understand the hierarchy at this particular point. And I would say this is not a typical way of representing the eyes. So I would probably avoid using any in that. This is breath and death, but we don't really have to worry about breath and death at this point. Perhaps what we're saying here is maybe they could have grouped some of the categories together. I don't think we're going to have this challenge with Nightwood, and I don't think you're going to have this challenge But just be aware that if you have a lot of categories, you may actually be able to read, right? Even for your client, your customer, that might be a challenge, but you're not committing to breadth and depth yet, because that you will be able to change and decide breadth and depth on your navigation. And this will make a lot of sense when we move on to navigation. This one has a lot of depth. The section, right? The section has a lot of items, but maybe you have no other choice, right? Um, I'm not too worried about having too many items myself, to be honest with you. Yes, the only thing it becomes hard to read for your client. This is another example of IA. So I will say this is probably a well balanced, right? We were talking about breadth and depth. There's not too much depth and there's not too much breadth. It's definitely a breadth one. I think this is a good IA. The only thing that I don't like is the color coding. They give you a legend, but really think of it. Why do I need a legend? The main pages. Well, I get a level. I can see that this is level 1 and this is probably all of my level 2. Page content. Every page is a page. Every box is a page. There's going to be an about page, right? And then when I click on about, I'm going to see these other options. Links that are able to access. We don't have links. We don't have links. So this I is not 100%. They would get maybe an 8 or a 7 out of 10. No links. There should be no links. All of these should be pages, and there should be no color. I don't need to have color coding. But it has all the connectors. But what I don't understand, though, it's here. I don't understand what is happening here. So I think what happens is this is really another category. Shop by category, shop by food category, shop by product page. I think this should probably just be here at a level at the top. That's probably the choice that I would have made. But I don't understand this relationship here. So I would critique. I think what they should do instead for this particular I is this should just be a category by itself. Shop by food category, single product page, or by products. That's probably how I would do. And I would not have color coding. Okay, features. So we talked a little bit about features. So we said we don't include features, but if you were to, you need to document your feature at some point, and then that would be a separate list that you would have. So let's say for Nightwood, or I don't remember if I asked you to think of a list of feature. And I don't know if I ask you to think of a list of feature for your site, for Indigo or for Nintendo or any of your sites. You may think that maybe there's new features that you'd like to add to the site that don't belong to the IA. If you think that some of them do, then include them in new IA. But if you want to keep track of some of the features that you brainstorm as a team, just list them in Miro and say, the team has brainstormed and we think that we should probably have the following features that we would propose to Shopper Drug Mart. So you document them and you don't lose them, right? But they don't need them. They shouldn't be in the IA if they're not a page. But you can still keep note of your feature. We've already done the critiques of some of the IAs, so I don't think I want to do more details, more insights specifically about them. We've already talked, and then these are obviously bad examples of IAs. I have no idea what the hierarchy is, right? We don't really know what the hierarchy, the color coding, we don't understand why they're using different colors. So this is a messy IA. This is also a messy IA in the sense that it kind of looks like an IA. I may have trees, a bit of a sense of a tree, but what is it that we don't really like about this IA? Other things we don't like about this IA. And I'd like to hear from you. What do you think is maybe potentially broken with this particular IA on screen? Yes, there are crossing AQ, yes, absolutely. There are linking, crossing. You see how it's difficult to read? Put yourself, me, I'm trying to evaluate the IA. So this IA would probably get 6, 5. Yes, the legend is unnecessary. The placement of boxes or random, right? Consistency, just be consistent so that we can clearly know how pages related to one another. Now, do you see the size of the boxes too, right, Michael? We talk about legend, color, but there's different boxes size. Like one size. Like, why do we have a bigger size? If you want to use a bigger size for L1, like this one is a bit bigger, I'm okay too. I will probably understand that this is probably, your level one, but I don't need to have a bigger size for the boxes. But these ones are smaller. These ones are bigger. So it's all broken. So this I definitely an example of not to do. Yes, they don't need to have different color. There's no need to have different color. This is another example and of IA. So the quick critique that I would do with this is obviously color. They don't need to have color, but they're probably using red to tell us this is a main section. These are main section. These are L1. And then these are, so L1, these are probably L2, and these are probably L3. But you don't need to have color. I could understand the hierarchy from this tree without using the color. So the other critique that I think I have about this particular is these items here at the top, the ones that we have at the top, uh, they are not in the tree, right? These items need to be in the tree as well, but they're not. Feature, panels, what else do we have? Tab, search, my account. They need to be part of the tree. But at this point, I really don't need any of these items. So you don't need to have features. My pen is driving me crazy a bit. Hold on. I don't need to have features at this stage. No need for features. No need. I don't know what panels is. Search is a given. There will be a search on your site. I don't even need to see search. And my account, if you want to have my account, then just create a section. So if there will be an account and that will be okay, then create a section for account. So I should just have an account section, move it to account, and that's it, but connect it to your homepage. But not by itself the way that they have it. I feel like this is nowhere. These pages don't exist anywhere. So they need, all boxes need to be connected to a section. That's really the message here. What else? We have a few more examples. So okay, so we have another one here. So what are some of the challenges with this particular information architecture? There are a few. They're not as noticeable, but there are a few challenges. What would be some of the critiques that you would do? Does it look like a tree? Do we understand that it looks like a tree and we see that there is hierarchy? Are we able to see the tree in the hierarchy? I will say yes. I can see that there's a tree. I can see that there's hierarchy. I don't need color. So I don't need color. I can see that this is 1, this is 2, and I think these are 3. I don't need these because reports and products, search reports and products. I don't know that I need to search. This is a feature. Feature reports and products. Good. This is all I need in that box. I don't need to have something because I know that I will find products and reports, right? I don't need to have something that says a stack. There's a stack of topic. Focused area, education, educational, health, I don't need any of these. Meet people. So our people, meet people, leadership, individual people. Of course, I will have a listing of people. That I know, but I don't have to show the individual listing. I don't need to show search, newsroom, I get. So I don't need any of these items. Then in this could be, all boxes could be white. And what else? I don't need to have a search feature. I don't need to have these. I don't need to have, these are external links, right? So they're trying to show me external links. We don't want to show external links. Things are linking to other places. They just need the boxes. And everything needs to be in the same color. And I would understand the hierarchy. So this one would probably get maybe 8 out of 10. It was not that too broken. This is definitely not a good information architecture because I really don't understand the hierarchy. I don't understand the levels and the hierarchy, so that's a pretty bad choice. This, I can see that there's a tree. I can see hierarchy in a tree, but I don't understand why the color. But perhaps they're trying to communicate me L2, so this is L1, this is L2, this is L3. but I don't think that I need any color. I would probably be able to, no footer. And these items, I don't know what they are. Checkout, news, these need to live somewhere. So these items need to have a home. So we need to find them a home. And then these are not needed because they're not pages. These are features as well. Okay, I think by now you're seeing the patterns. I think you're getting a sense of what it is that I'm looking at and what I will be interested in. And then maybe we can do an example of how we would do the diagram for one of the card sorting for Nightwood based on the cards that we have. Are there any questions or any comments when it comes to eye diagramming that you would like to ask me? My advice to you is to keep it very simple. The students are trying to make it more complex than they should, and this is when they lose points. So what's really important is that you start with your card sorting and you have your cards, and then you just move to diagram. You use any diagramming tool that you want, and you can use Miro, you can use Adobe as well. If it's up to you, it's your choice. Let me see, 512, 511. I want to go to Miro and maybe go back to one of our card sorting. Okay, I'm going to share with you the information architecture that one of the students did. And maybe we're going to do a quick critique of her information architecture. So this is from my other class. And then they've already submitted the card sorting and the eye diagram as from their for their assignment. And then I will share with you what the students did. And I've been marking it. And perhaps we can critique it together. So okay. And the students in some is separate class, so there's no last name, so you don't know exactly who this person is. But again, we're just trading this confidentially. I'm not going to give you what the mark is, and we should be comfortable of being able to share as teams because we will have colleagues. So there's no personal information or being served except there's a first name, but it means little to the class. So what is good, or what is maybe you would have done different for the information architecture? So does it look like a tree? And this is the zoo. So this information architecture is based on the cart sorting. So let me share with you what the cart sorting was. So this was a final cart sorting. Okay, so this was a final cart sorting that this students had, particularly for the zoo. So she had visit the zoo, who are we are, attractions, events, animals, get involved, support the zoo. So she went through the course sorting with participant, real participant, and that was her final course sorting. And then she moved on. She moved on to the main information architecture. So the question is, does this look like a tree? Do we see a tree and do we see hierarchy? I say yes, I see a tree, I see hierarchy. Uh, um, it's very consistent and all boxes are connected. But there's color coding. Do I really need a color coding? I say no, I don't need to have color coding. Did I remove, or did the student would lose marks for the color coding? I would say likely it is no, because I'm able to understand the hierarchy, right? So, but I wouldn't penalize the students if they put color coding when I'm actually able to read the information architecture that is presented. Where there was a bit of a challenge or a question was in this area. So our conservation and the conservation partnership and this arrow, blue arrow, I have a hard time to understand the relationship here because I assume they all L2, but I have suddenly there's a connector, there's a box here with these two connector with these two boxes that I don't know what they mean. And then the same thing here to the left, food services has a box, two boxes that are going to the left. So I was questioning what is the relationship between these items, restaurants on premises, and oh, it's leisure level 3. But I think there's a better way that we could have done with this is I would just have added restaurants on premises below food services and use indentation and connect them. So in the information architecture, I don't know, but I see students feeling a need to sometimes put boxes on the left outside of the IA to make it pretty and consistent. But the information architecture expect to have the boxes below and use the indentation, and it's okay to not make it. Maybe it's going to make it look maybe not even, but that's okay. We're not about to all be even and be all square and be perfect. But I know sometimes for designer that might be a bit of a difficult thing to do because we are very perfectionist. Other than that, that was really my main critique for the information architecture. I can understand the level. Me personally, I prefer indentation. Okay, so I would have probably indented my level 2. So what I would have done for this specific architecture as instead is, let me see if I can use my pen. So I would have used, and I don't know why my pen is just not collaborating. I've I use I like to use indentation. So for my L2. So if I have another box here for my L1 and I have some L2, I do use indentation, and then I will use the indentation when I have other level. As opposed of this, I was using connectors, right? We had connectors for all of them. I prefer this indentation. I find that it's a lot clear so that there's no guessing that here is it really L2? We assume that it is, but here this we know this is L2, right? So indentation for me works better, even for me when I read and when I mark it. But I did understand that they were level 2, but I'm assuming there's still a bit of a doubt, but but I will say the IA overall is a good IA for that students, what they've done. So I think now is we get better when we do the IA ourselves and when we have an opportunity to practice. So if there are no questions, then now it's 2 o'clock. I have no other material for today. So I can open breakout sessions and then you can work on your lab items. So you can work on the lab items for diagramming and then I can give feedback. So you can, I would say my recommendation is that perhaps you work individually on the IA for your lab items. You can regroup with your teams and share your IA and get feedback from your team members and just improve. And you can, again, the lab, you can submit individuals or you can submit a team's information. You can all agree on the IA, but everybody, if you want to all try to do the IA from your cart sorting that you've done for Nightwood for lab from last week, it's up to you. But this is a time to be able to practice yourself or do with your team. So I can open breakout sessions, but we're done for the class for the lecture today. There's no more material. So you can work on lab or you can work on the assignment that is due for Monday for the cart sorting for your project. What would you like? Or you can leave. It's up to you. At this point, you can use the time as you wish. Would you like me to open some breakout rooms and you can work in teams? Okay, so now I can do breakouts. You can go to breakouts, or you can meet where you normally meet with your teams. That's good as well. Some people meet on Teams, Zoom, Google Meet. It's really up to you. Are there any questions about the assignment, or are there any questions about anything that you would like to get clarity on? This is a good time to do this as well. I know you have a lot of work to be done, so we're lucky that we have, the diagram is a short session. I think we've done the hardest pieces in this class for this class, like the chord sorting and asking yourself the right questions and the chord sorting and the IA diagram. The IA diagram itself is easy. I think we've asked ourselves the hardest question. You'll see navigation is also an easy element to IA as well. So do I open up breakout rooms, or are you guys gonna just all depart and do your on your own? Like it's you can do whatever. You can use this time as you wish, and I can help here as well. I can answer questions. It's up to you how you want to use this time. Okay, so I'm gonna be here a few more minutes if students need my help. Me, what I will do is I will probably gonna do some marking, and then I wish you a good weekend. So and good luck with the assignments. Have a good weekend. Enjoy a bit of the weather if you have a chance, and thank you for all coming. I hope you are enjoying classes, and then we'll see you next week as well. And I'll be here. So I'm here for any questions that anybody has. So I see that Arshdeep, maybe you have some questions. So please feel free. I'm here.